Now, these specific cases that you mentioned here are actually part of a bigger investigation or a bigger story that you set out on forensics in South Africa and the state of forensics in South Africa. So could you speak to us about some of your findings?
So there are multiple aspects or different types of forensics. Obviously, the first one was within pathology, and that stemmed out of the curiosity of what happens to people when they die. And I was working very closely there with the state morgue, which works under dual appointment with the University of Cape Town. And I mean, my findings there was that the biggest issue is that due to the high levels of violent crime that we have in South Africa, the system is really flooded, you know, and I found an exceptionally committed and dedicated team working there, but the biggest challenge is just the amount of work that they need to do. But that's not to say that hope's lost. They're busy funding to try and establish a new forensic laboratory, which will be a one-stop shop, which could see things like, which will take on board things like toxicology and molecular diagnostics of DNA. And for example, with toxicology, that could see a reduction in turnover rate from the current time frame of 6 years down to 24 hours. And they've also got a very strong commitment to education and training, which they're busy implementing. And I think that's really important across the board, because we can only expect a level of quality as far as people are trained and what they're capable of doing. So that was within the morgue. Then it goes into your forensic sciences. One space which also goes which comes into the sheer volume of work we're dealing with is crime scene investigation. I feel that there's definitely scope for improvement in this field. Just because, again, you know, this is happening on the scene of the crime. The crime is still fresh, and if evidence is not gathered accurately and comprehensively over this period of time, there's just too many loopholes that the defense can find in court in breaking down the case. And also remember, in criminal court, the judge is looking for reasonable doubt. So it's not necessarily about what's right or wrong. It's just about finding a crack or something which suggests that this may not be entirely true or fact. So it's really, really important to have like strong crime scene investigation there. And yeah, I think this also comes down to just having the right resources and like committed and well-trained staff. Yeah. Now,
like the big issue Leadwood, it's what the Oscar case exposed, and of course, lots of South Africans, me included, didn't give crime scene investigations much of a thought until Oscar Pistorius was in the news, and all of a sudden now we realize, oh hey, we've got big teams of people doing really incredible work on crime scenes and also in forensics. And I especially loved some of the stories about specific people working in these departments that you got to speak to and that you got to interact with. Is there a person or maybe even an incident for you that kind of highlights the good work that South African forensics is doing?
I would say that yes, most definitely. Like I said, I spend most of my time at the Salt River Morgue, and I was really struck by the forensic pathologists working there and their commitment to seeking change. One of the examples is how they are going beyond the call of duty is Professor Lorna Martin's attempts to try and establish this new laboratory. And but speaking to the pathologists themselves, you know, there's a very strong. Well, it's an exceptionally difficult subject matter to deal with. I mean, their job entails them reliving the moments before a person was murdered, documenting this all very thoroughly and memorizing it so that they can testify as expert witnesses in court. So it's emotionally very draining, but it also requires like a very meticulous way of working. And what I was finding, what I was struck by in their attempts is their like genuine desire to try and seek justice within court and like really pursue cases in order to try and assist the families, you know, that need closure with these cases, and also there's a long history within forensics in South Africa, in the sense that it changed quite dramatically in 2006 when it was the forensic department, well, forensic services was originally controlled by the SAPS, and in 2006 we moved across to the Department of Health. And since that time there's been a big surge in trying to make the forensic services far more interactive and sort of welcoming to people that need to use these services. And I think it's that this is quite an important issue, in making sure that there's closure on these cases and verdicts reached in court.